I mean, this is absurd. It is so absurdly perfect. You can almost forget them. And I have to. I make money from breathing. Yeah. This is the reason. I mean, if anybody wants to know why the environment, even down here, is damaged all over, you look up Awaken with JP. Now, I don't understand Megan Down and Sarah Hayder. I'm going to listen to somebody else's podcast. All of it. It's going to be moaning. It's just going to be cake and bloody. If you care about old people, you get them out. And I realised that 10 years ago. Anyway, I don't understand them because, you know, unfortunately this is what happened in 2020 and it needs to stop. So what if JP, in a brilliantly satirical way, pulled the world's leg about one medication when there are hundreds of other medications that are medically quashing people, that are, I mean, people with psychosis are given chemicals which the top brains in that world. You can look up Daily Motion, Why Did I Go Mad? Richard Brentall basically says, he couldn't quite say it because he was on the BBC, but even those beautiful but so ill people with terrible psychoses that was shown in that programme, he basically said to them, chuck away your medication. Anyway, the environment in Britain is buggered because virtually every stereotype, and they're actually even more stereotypical in the way that JP, Awaken with JP, shows them. That's what I've had to live with for 10 years. They are the ones who'll be there because it's a good sales opportunity for them. Go and sort of take over the local Extinction Rebellion group. I actually saw them. I've recorded them. And between smiling and manifesting for change, and I haven't put a recording up yet, but one of them actually said to me when I asked her, just like the one down there actually, they all look the same. They actually all look the same. I asked her, I've been a bit busy. This was it 2019 around then? I noticed that I heard that the Herefordshire Council had been persuaded by some efforts, some people going to council meetings, it's a miracle, to call for a crisis, what's it called, a climate emergency or crisis setting in the legal framework that is attached to the local authority. And I asked Mrs. Extinction Rebellion, super beautiful Zenny Yogurish, hey, that's like, I heard about this, womaning the Extinction Rebellion stall in Kington Market. I had my recorder on because you have to protect yourself. Oh, so this motion that was passed by Herefordshire Council, the Cabinet, is it binding or non-binding? It makes a fuck of a big difference. Oh, we don't really look at it in that kind of a way. We're not really, we don't believe that politics is something that we should follow. Really? Yeah, so every single stereotype, archetype, prototype, they're not hypothetical, that's in Awaken with JP, they will always be in there, breathing in all the oxygen of any kind of ordinary citizen citizenly holding to account via the normal democratic means, in other words, pressurising your MP, pressurising the council not to allow building in the environment, which can always be done, but it's hard work and it's dirty and you have to roll your sleeves up and you have to do things like, instead of manifesting change through positive vibrations and changing your hair colour every 2 weeks and slapping on 7 inches of makeup for photo shoots, you actually have to do the really, really horribly boring, dirty thing of asking in your community, not, come and look at me dressing up, but has anyone got any fucking dirt on anybody in the council? Or the MP? Or, because we've got to find a way of pressurising them into actually following the law, because the law essentially protects the environment. No, that's we don't do that in our, well, it's nothing. The movement became nothing as soon as every single person that JP satirises, I don't know if Megan Down and Sarah Hayder care about the environment. I think they do, actually. I mean, the bottom line is you have to simplify everything, and I've been doing it for 10 years. My rhetoric is brilliant. It's quite simple. Women rule everything. They do. And anybody that argues, only women have got the public platform in reality, in a way that actually can change things. Reference what's her face, the one who spoke out about the Gurkhas. I forget what she's called. Google Gurkhas 5 or 6 years ago. Patsy in that program, that was quite good actually. I forget her real name. Anyway, the point is, the world's most famous female scientist, Sabine Hosfelder, who also, now I happen to know this, the science in Britain and probably in parts of Europe is kind of partly run, the funding, the money via the media, the PR is partly run by a few people like Hilary Lawson and people like that who are in a cabal who make money out of talks and documentaries in London. And Sabine is one in them. She's stayed in this house, I should imagine. So this top little cabal, Sabine, who essentially is, you could probably call her the most powerful female scientist, certainly in Britain, if not Europe, Sabine Hosfelder said, and I don't follow anybody like that really on YouTube, but she's made 2 or 3 videos recently utterly sticking the knife in for the madness in those who are trying to besmirch the science of, yes, there is almost certainly, as she says, I don't like the term actually, but she just calls it global warming. It's a fact. According to Sabine, probably the top female scientist in the world. So, there you go. That's enough. That's enough for me. There's no downside to it, because even if it's completely wrong, still, the same changes we need to make regarding the environment. I mean, this is why I despair of the environmental movement, because it should have been 15 years ago promoted as an anti-pollution movement. Then you keep on board the hunting and fishing lot, because they're obsessed with water quality, and air, because they go around killing animals for fun that live in the air or the water. Anyway, the same changes that need to be made to reduce global warming, whether or not it exists, also are the same changes that reduce pollution in the overall atmosphere, the seas, the actual, a friend of mine, oh no, it's the next one, Lizard. Roger Dewhurst, his bees down the end there, says, theory, one of the cleanest places in Britain. Says his bees pick up microplastic. There is microplastic everywhere. The changes, all of these changes, if we work on seriously reducing consumption first, before we talk about renewables, they also will be positively impacted. I mean, every person in Britain loves the dolphins. Well, these seas are not in, they're probably a bit better over this side, but over the other side, Mounts Bay, and then all over that side, Porthleven, all around there, they are in a real mess. Your dolphins, and it's all the same. It's not, you just can't just blame it on big companies. It's individuals' consumption. There we go. And furthermore, I can't remember if I've actually said it. I've got to put up I've got an audio that needs bleeping. The simple fact of the matter is that even if Big Water were given £50 billion, 50 billion, I mean, they say it probably take 20 billion to renovate and repair the sewerage systems adequately, which of course in 10 years becomes 50 billion. If they were given 50 billion quid, it'll still take 10 years, 15 years. I mean, it's not going to happen. They're not going to get any substantial money, and they are not going to change their ways because of the whole economic structure of the water companies. In the interim 15 years, they're not going to be able to stop much the chemicals as well as farm runoff, the chemicals from our bathrooms that are running into our water table. So Fergal Sharkey is frankly kind of almost evil for not saying, here's your priorities. Okay, first, even if there was a magic fairy who's going to give us 50 billion, give the water companies 50 billion quid, okay, still, for 10 or 15 years, and that's best case scenario. Look at Fleabag. Even Fleabag is sitting there despairing, the terribly written Fleabag, at the huge amount of bathroom products. Okay, they've increased by a factor of 10 in, I mean, and that includes what you're using to clean your car, you know, blah blah blah, the whole damn thing. Anything, everything can end up in the drains. So your Fergal Sharkey, you're not saying, you, first things first, best case scenario, the water companies are given 50 billion quid. You've still got to reduce seriously your use, because this is the last 15 or 20 years, it's massively increased the amount of chemical going into the water. Domestic household chemical, which includes poisons put on gardens, any chemical used in the garden, all of it, bits and bobs of it, end up in the watercourse. So reduce that first. Even in the case of best case scenario, the drains are seriously improved in 15 years. You're still going to need to reduce it first during that period, because that's how long it'll take. I bet you it'd take 30 years, even if they have 50 billion quid, it'd take 30 years to really improve it all across the board. So there you go. It's just pathetic, the lot of them. And yeah, breathe. I've come to the conclusion, actually, yes, to revert to a simple phrase for all of this obsession. It's all self-obsession. It is actually, I hate this word. I really hate it because it's being used by default for so many people trying to do other people down in court cases or other similar means. But it is actually just precious narcissism. Watching somebody sat doing her zens, and it's just precious narcissism. It's a total and utter self-obsession, but it is actually precious narcissism. I think you've got to put precious narcissism in there, because there's a difference between a sort of really dangerous narcissism that ends up possibly like 0.1% being some kind of serial killer, but yeah, it's not borderline personality disorder actually, although that's very common in both genders. It's just this complete my breathing is just right. But there's no scientific proof it makes the slightest bit of difference whatsoever.